Welcome to another episode of Dear Emanuela. My name is Emanuela Rodenberg. I am your dating and relationship coach. I specialize in helping Christian women know themselves so they can properly identify the right life partner for them. I am so excited on another episode today. Today we are talking about 5 steps to choosing the right life partner. This will be a 5-part series. We'll be talking about different steps as the weeks go by. So today I am so excited. I have a very special couple that's here with me that are going to be sharing their journey into choosing the right life partner. So I'm so happy to have Kisha and Philip today. So they're going to be a great addition to the podcast today. So I'm always happy when I can have guests here to share a different perspective and different light when it comes to dating and choosing the right life partner. So this podcast episode is going to be of value to you if you are a Christian woman who is unsure of how to identify and choose the right life partner to share your future with. If you're a woman who is tired of choosing the wrong men and are ready to start choosing differently and better, you will find this broadcast is designed to equip you with the skills and knowledge that you need to properly choose the right life partner. So no more just winging it. We're going to give you some clear insights on how you can prepare yourselves for marriage. So the first step that we're going to be talking about today is know who you are. Know who you are. I have a saying, a woman cannot successfully choose the right life partner for herself without first knowing who she is. So the first step to being able to choose the right life partner is knowing who you are as an individual. A lot of people think they can just skip this step and still have successful relationships. But I guarantee you, if you avoid this crucial step, you will find yourself going back to the process and having to discover who you are before you can attract the kind of relationship that's going to be a good fit for you. So today I have Kisha and Philip here. So I'm just going to introduce themselves. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about themselves. So Kisha, I'm going to start with you. Just kind of tell us a little bit about you, just how long you've been married and your journey to being able to choose the right life partner.
Hi, everyone. Yes, my name's Kisha, and me on my journey to choosing the right life partner. I've been married now for 2 years to an incredible husband, Philip. It's been a great journey thus far. I know it's 2 years, sounds short, but I think that in the first year, a lot of people have a lot of challenges, but thankfully, with great planning, we haven't foreseen any of those thus far, and just communication is great, and everything's been going well so far.
Thank you. And Philip, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you, just how long I guess you guys have been married the same amount of time, right? Because you are married to each other.
Yes.
So then, you know what? I'm going to jump right into it. Philip, how important was it for you to know who you were before you decided to embark on this journey of becoming a husband?
Well, hello, everybody. My name is Philip. I can say the importance of knowing yourself. I've been in relationships before, and it's good to know yourself in the sense of knowing what path that you're trying to take. In past relationships, I would focus more on trying to please the other woman in that sense, how important that is. But then again, once you're pleasing that individual, you tend to leave yourself behind. And if they're not happy, and then you're just out there, it seems like you just let yourself go. And I learned by working on myself to be that person for that individual. It makes me a better person and preparing to be a better person for her. And in that sense, that's how I see preparing yourself and knowing yourself a lot better makes you a better person for your spouse. That's how I see it more so.
Awesome. I love that. How sometimes when we are in relationships, we can be so focused on our partner that we neglect ourselves. We forget that we also need to work on ourselves so that we can be the best version of ourselves. And that's also going to benefit the relationship. So Kisha, I know Philip said he just spent some time working on himself, and I'm going to go in a few minutes and ask
him, maybe specifically, what are some of the things that he did to work on himself that has prepared him and has helped him so far on his journey, his 2 years into marriage? So what are some things that you've noticed in Philip that has equipped him since you've been married to him for the past 2 years?
Well, initially in the relationship with Philip, I had a personal relationship with Christ. And Philip, he grew up in the church, and along the way kind of, fell along the wayside and didn't really have that relationship with Christ anymore. And for me, that was a big thing. And so I knew what I envisioned my family to look like and what I wanted for us. I never wanted my child to, to say, oh, mommy, why do we have to go to church? Daddy doesn't go. And so it was a huge decision because I never told Philip when I first met him that I knew he was going to be my husband. God told me. I didn't want to scare him off, so I didn't tell him. But yeah, so, I just had a heart-to-heart with him and told him that was something that I just had to have, and definitely was scared of losing him. But I wanted to make sure that I kept, true to myself and put God first and trusted him. And so I had a conversation with Philip, and, I definitely respected that he told me he would think about it. And some weeks to months later, he decided to go to church with me more and more. He got saved. He developed his own personal relationship with Christ. Sad to say, he does read his Bible more and have his, his quiet time with Christ more than me these days. But I'm so glad that God used me as a vessel to bring him back to him. So that in itself has been a huge determining factor in our relationship with Christ, and just how our family, our dynamic, our marriage is right now. So that's been huge that Philip took my advice and just seeks Christ for himself, and that's just been a big thing in our relationship.
Wow, your story sounds so similar to mine. And I think it's so awesome for women to know, when you know who you are, when you have your moral compass, when you know your values and who you are, especially rooted in Christ, if you call yourself a Christian, to not be moved and swayed and know what God has for you is for you. And I love how you say God told you that was your husband. And that was the same thing for me as well. God told me. And I want to piggyback just on that point. How important, because I know this broadcast, a lot of singles listen to it. How important is it? Like, a lot of women, they'll meet the man and they're like, God told me you were my husband. How important is that for women to keep that to themselves and not rush on the first date and tell a man, well, God told me you were going to be my husband, and the impact that could have on future relationships? So how important, can you speak to that a little bit? And then I'm going to ask Philip, how would his reaction have been had you told him from the beginning God had told you that?
Oh my God. Well, later on, I told Philip that, when we were a little more close, we got to know each other more. I didn't think he was going to run away right away once I told him. But surprisingly, when I did tell him, he told me that he had a vision that I was going to be his wife. Oh. He always had these dreams where he would see have their a woman's frame, but he could never see the face. And so it wasn't until he met me and we went on a date, and then he said he had the dream again, and then he saw my face. God revealed my face to him. So we both had this. I knew and he knew. We just didn't share it with each other. I guess he would scare me off.
Oh my God, that is so funny. That is so amazing. So Philip, so you were having the same thought and you didn't share that with Kisha. And what would have happened? Do you think how would have that impact your relationship had Kisha come in from the outset of just meeting you and told you, well, God told me you just were going to be my husband? How would that have changed the dynamic of your relationship?
I was going to look for the door right away. No, I think it would take anybody off, by surprise, and especially when there's something that you're not close with God, and then, like what Kisha said, I grew up in church. And then I lost my way, and I always knew that I wanted to come back to Christ, and having Kisha in my life pushed me to get to that point. And then it's been a blessing since then. Even thinking about it and talking about it still brings chills up my spine, just knowing that she had to be in my life in order for me to get closer to God and stuff like that. And I know by getting closer to him, it makes me a better person for her also, like I talked about before. And like I did have a vision of her, the image, like she said, and it never was revealed to me until after I actually went on a couple of dates with her, and then that dream came back to me. I was like, that's the person. That same feeling that I had in the dream when I met her, and then we started spending more time, that same feeling started to come into me. That's how I confirmed it in that point. And it's been a blessing since then. Starting with relationships always have its challenges, but knowing the person that you're going to be with, and knowing regardless of the challenges, that's the person that I know that I can go through the challenges with, and then moving forward with. Because some things that you say, oh, I can handle this and that, but it depends on who you want to handle it with. Mm-hmm. If you have the right person by you, then all right, I can do it with her, and then we have, like you said, we have a communication. We're working on our communications. There's always been a good communication, but sometimes along the way we tend to forget about that communication, how strong it was, and then I found ourselves just talking yesterday, like we started to lose a little bit of the communication, and to come to that point that we can talk to each other and come to that mind frame, like, okay, we're going to come back to that communication. That's is a beautiful thing that we can talk to each other and bring things together into this perspective.
Oh my God, I love your story. I thought I knew everything about this couple. Obviously not. I am learning so much in this podcast myself. I'm going to have to listen to this podcast. Well, Philip, I just want to ask you, I know for the women, how important is it that when a woman have these thoughts, that God tell them these things, how important is it for them to wait timing to share this information with the guy that they might be thinking, they might be going on a first date with? How important is timing and when you tell a guy how you feel about him?
I think it's very important. I think it's some things that God revealed to you is supposed to be kept to you until he allow you to reveal it to that individual. Because sometimes that person is not ready for that reveal. It's like a child that God says, okay, you're destined to have this. You have a child. I plan on giving you this car. You're not going to give them that car or reveal that car to them until they get older to handle that. Mm-hmm. The same thing with that, your spiritual growth with God. God would reveal that information to you, but then again, you're not ready to. She was not ready to reveal that to me because I wasn't right with God at that point. Mm-hmm. It probably would have turned me the other way as opposed to bringing me closer to her.
Yeah. So timing is very important. And I think just from listening to the conversation, I can tell there was a level of definitely maturity, but there was some work that was done individually so that when you guys came together, I can tell that you guys were ready in a healthy place that you could really add value to your relationship. So let's talk about some practical things, because this first step is really getting to know who you are before you enter a relationship. So knowing your values, knowing your strengths, knowing your like and your dislike. How important is it for a person to know who they are, have a strong self of identity before entering into a relationship?
Well, it's very important to know who you are, and because if you know who you are, then someone can't just walk into your life or you meet someone and deter you from, who you are and the things that you already want. Sometimes you can, of course, you compromise, but it's definitely important to know who you are, what you're seeking, because a lot of times we meet someone and then we're lost. We're finding ourselves so consumed by that person that we forget who we are, what things we wanted. So, for example, if I didn't know who I was and what was important to me, I would have allowed Christ to fall by the wayside because that wasn't something that was at the forefront for Philip. And so I would have been so engaged and tuned into what was important for him that I would have lost myself along that way.
Wow. What about you, Philip? Thank you so much, Kisha. That was such great insight.
Yes, I would say that's very important to know where you stand and the values that you have, and not to compromise in certain values. Although we have in the relationship, you do have compromise, but there's certain things that that's my thing, and that's what I'm not compromising from. And I give Kisha that staying firm of her beliefs and knowing that it's something that I've always been and keeping that. and it brought me closer to God and me. And you hear stories of people, they lose their identity from, being in a relationship. It's like if the person is not with them, then they really don't have anything to do. You know what I'm saying? I've grown to invite Kisha as much as I love to build things. I love to finance. I always try to bring Kisha into those type of things and try to engage in those things with her. But those are things that I knew about to get into myself. And, that's my life partner. And I want to, dabble in because I find it very exciting and I like to share things with her too. So at that point, I'll try to get her into some of the things. But I always had an identity of what I wanted and how I wanted to be treated. And she always came about to follow that step for me.
That's awesome. I love you saying how you always had an identity, who you were, and how you wanted to be treated. I think that is so key in a relationship, that you have a strong identity of who you are. And I always say you must have. You should have like 3 lists when you're going into a relationship. You must have things that are non-negotiable for you, like things you are not willing to compromise on. So if this person doesn't fit these, you won't find a person. There is no perfect person, but there are some key things that should be so essential to who you are as a human being, to your soul, that you should not be willing to compromise on those things for a relationship. So it's so important that you know who you are, have a strong self of identity, so that you're not easily moved and shaken, and that you're not so consumed by that relationship that you start to get your identity from that relationship. So when you're no longer in that relationship, or you lose that relationship, you lose a sense of self to it as well. So as we know, we're coming together as couples, but we are also 2 individuals. And I always say it's 2 healthy and whole individuals that make a healthy relationship, because there's always 3 pieces. I say there's me, and there's you, and then there's the relationship. I need to be taken care of. I need to know who I am. I'm responsible for my own happiness. The relationship is not responsible for my happiness. I bring happiness into the relationship. All the things that I seek, I have to bring them into the relationship, and don't put the burden of the relationship to provide those things for me. Because if I'm fulfilled, my partner's fulfilled, then we can fulfill the relationship together. And I think that's so important, that people know, even though you're in a relationship, you still have a sense of obligation to yourself as an individual to make sure that you are being fulfilled as well. So this was so awesome. I could really have this conversation all day, and I love just talking to you guys. And one last question. Can you just say one thing that you really did as an individual that helped you get to know yourself? I know people say, well, get to know, who are you? Da, 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 da. Tell me one thing that you did that really helped you on your journey to knowing who you are as an individual, that has really helped you in your marriage.
So for me, I did 2 things, but individually, because we did premarital counseling, and that was a huge thing for us. And there were some exercises, but it was mostly things together. But something that really helped me, and I don't know if you know, a lot of people don't even know that you and I are related. You're my sister. But I came to you and you had me do a premarital counseling for myself, so to get to know myself, and it was filled with questionnaires, and you had Philip do it as well. We both did it individually, separate, and that was a huge indicator of me getting to know me, what was important for me, what was I seeking, and things that I didn't even know about myself. That was very important, and that gave great insight into just knowing myself better, making sure that the things that I needed to make sure that were going to make me happy, to keep me whole, were at the forefront still, and I wasn't going to lose my identity in the relationship, and definitely Philip wouldn't either. So those are both the things that we made sure that we knew about ourselves, and then we shared it with each other, because I have my identity and things that are important for me, but I had to share that with Philip so he understood and he knew, because he had to know what makes me happy. But ultimately, I have to know and make sure that I'm happy with myself and not looking for Philip to bring the joy and happiness to me, because then you're always counting on, well, Philip, I'm not happy today. So I wake up and I'm happy, and I know that what's important for me, but also Philip knows what's important for me as well.
I love that. It's like you took the time to get to know who you are, because I think a lot of people don't realize you don't know who you are. You don't know what makes you happy, and you put this burden on this other person, like, make me happy. What's going on? And the person asks, what do you need? Well, I don't know. You haven't figured it out, and then you expect your partner to figure it out.
That's not fair.
And it's not fair. It's a lot of pressure, and it's not fair to your partner. So it is so important that you get to know yourself. And I'm so glad you mentioned that. One of the things that I help couples do is get to know themselves as an individual before you become the we. You have to know the me. So get to know yourself before you try to join with another person. So thank you so much. And Philip, what was the one thing that you did that really helped you to knowing who you are before joining with Kisha?
Knowing that my happiness is solely because of me. Although being with Kisha makes me happy, but I know I am the one that's responsible for my happiness. Like, people will see me, I'm at work, or I'm always a happy person. It's in my soul. Like, I things cannot affect me. I cannot allow things to affect me. And I try my best to try to portray that, and showing that with Kisha. You know, I like to spend time with her and stuff like that. But my happiness is solely because of me. I try to make sure that I'm happy. And by me being happy, it's the energy that you put out. You know what I'm saying? And it just received other people. You can walk around miserable. People will see the miserable, and then the energy is so strong that you can feel it in the room. So if you're always happy, or just a happy person, and that's always been the thing for me, I had to be happy with myself in order for me to be of value to other people. So I always knew that.
Wow, that is so powerful. Oh my God. Isn't this couple great? I love them. I love them. And I love their story. I really could. And I think I'm going to have to bring them back to do another episode. We have to do a follow-up. This was so great information. And guys, so we're going to just really talk about, why it's important to know yourself. And I think they gave us some great indication, the value of knowing who you are as an individual, and why it's important as a foundation before you enter a relationship. So I hope we gave you some great insight and information. Thank you so much to my beautiful couple that shared their love story with us today. And I hope they gave you guys some great points that you can take back into your relationship and apply them as you're preparing yourself to enter a relationship, or even if you're already in a relationship. I think they gave us some great information that can be applicable regardless of where you are on your relationship journey. So thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Dear Emanuela, where we focus on equipping you with the skills and the knowledge that you need to build healthy, thriving relationships. And thank you again. This episode is how to choose the right life partner 5-step. So be on the lookout for the second step, so you can know what the second step is to choosing the right life partner. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on another episode of Dear Emanuela.